Hello and welcome to another fun-filled edition of Adam's Music Box. And today I want to talk about a label, a very interesting label. And it came about during the golden age, the first golden age, I should say, of the audiophile label. And it even prefigured, it even, predated Mobile Fidelity and Nautilus and Direct Disc and certainly CBS Master Sound and all of these sort of 70s, 80s audiophile labels that, like I said, comprised the golden age, the first golden age of the audiophile record. Now, Sheffield Labs did something very unique in that what their specialty was were direct to disc recordings, which at first glance kind of seems weird because some of the initial electronic recordings dating back to the 1920s were technically direct to acetate disc. There was no tape involved because tape was obviously a superior format that would only become invented in the 1930s, and then in the 1950s it truly went global and became the standard method of all recording from the 50s right into the early 21st century. And some still prefer recording to tape as opposed to various digital formats. But Sheffield Lab had a very interesting theory. What if we were to take the principles of direct to disc recording and apply them to the world of super high fidelity? The results were incredible. Their records sounded absolutely amazing. Now, recording in this format is difficult because you have to get it right in one take, or, well, technically multiple takes, but you cannot edit takes together the way that you can with tape. Overdubs are also something that are pretty much not a thing. You can't really do that outside of the realm of tape or, of course, digital. But you had a lot of really interesting musicians record on this album, including some huge names. You had a couple of great albums by Thelma Houston. You have the album Direct. By Tower of Power, the name obviously implying what you had in terms of the recording format. Dave Grusin did some albums, a lot of big classical artists, including the great operatic, but also symphonic, but mainly operatic conductor. Eric Leinsdorf, Harry James, and his big band did some recordings. But I would say my favorite recording from this album from 1982 was one that was meant to be a demo disc. And it remains one of the most interesting audiophile demo discs of all time. And it's called the Sheffield Track Record. And for years, it was the kind of thing that people used to test various ultra high fidelity stereo systems. And while it might seem weird to say that this is one of my favorite albums of all time, it is. Not just because the music is engineered so well, but the music is actually really good. And when you start to look at the credits for the album, you can kind of see why. So you had the who's who of great studio and of jazz musicians. You had the great Michael Landau on guitar, the wonderful drummer Carlos Vega, who's been on so many recordings, Nathan East on bass. Again, so many recordings. Robbie Buchanan, really excellent keyboard player. Lenny Castro, a wonderful, wonderful percussionist. And it was, of course, produced by the late, great engineer Doug Sachs. And when you put all of that together, you get a demo album that, quite frankly, is better than a lot of albums that weren't meant to be demo albums that were, just meant to be appreciated for their artistic integrity. Now, the album, for a kind of audiophile demo album, it was relatively ubiquitous in the 80s, and you can still actually find clean copies because the kinds of people who would have bought it would have had good equipment. They wouldn't have had, your 10-cent record player from the thrift shop that just destroys the record. So you can still find that, and there's actually a CD version from on K2 mastering, which was a proprietary format they were using in Japan to master a lot of CDs in the early 90s. Really, really good stuff. There's also an MP3 version floating around out there. Not very good. I don't know what the source material was. In terms of the source material for the compact disc, they did run a two-track tape machine during these sessions as a kind of backup, and it is my understanding that the CDs are made from that. So if you really want the true direct to disc experience, you should try to track down one of the original LPs from 1982, and I'm just looking at Discogs now. You can get some that are relatively cheap, some go up a lot, but look around for this album, the Sheffield Track Record, because I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. The music is sort of instrumental AOR style rock with maybe a few hints at something jazzy fusiony. But it's really cool. It's really great stuff. So try to pick up a copy. That's my recommendation, at least. If you have the album or have heard it, let me know what you think in the comments. And as always, like, subscribe, and we will see you next time. Take care.